Howdy doody, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for another Acropolis number 3 Gauntlet Stage A cast, and we are back in the saddle for Qualification. And of course, another mirror matchup here, but it's not TVT as it was last time. This Qualification set is between ArbuzBudesh and the Shambler. And we will have a best of 5 here, ladies and gents. We are starting us off on Crisis Vector, a map by Jujic, and Arbuz is in the top left as the Electric Blue Protoss. I keep getting those two confused. And of course, Shambler down here in the bottom right is the red Protoss. Sometimes he ends up rolling black. I think he's got a couple of different colors in his preferred list, whereas I don't believe Arbuz has any preferred colors. So he's just kind of going with the whim, going with the flow. We can, of course, remind everybody that as of right now, as of the time of recording, signups are still open for Gauntlet Stage B. However, we only have one slot remaining, and so I must implore you that if you're going to sign up, you had better do it soon, since by the time you go and show interest, you might be waiting a week before Gauntlet Stage C signs up, opens up for the sign up. So just keep that in mind here as we wait for these two gates to come into effect. Of course, we do have a lovely pick ban here on our displays to talk about, to look about. Crisis Vector being our first map, it comes after Brainstorm and Check Stealer get vetoed. Makes sense that Shambler gets rid of Check Stealer. I'm not necessarily surprised about that. Meanwhile, we've got Near Impact up next as our second map. And then we had a second round of bans, Decapitation and Mass Destruction. Well, Shambler is a bit capricious in that respect, banning the favorite map of Arbuz. Makes a lot of sense. Arbuz is definitely a fan of that map. Meanwhile, Serenity will be our third map, and if we need more than that, Blackwater Bastion for a 4-spawner, and Radium for our Decider. That could be an interesting map to close things out on, as it is, of course, a 2-spawn map. Over here we have the Legionnaire from Arbuz. He's going to go ahead and move out with a couple of those tough puppies as he clears out the Scout. The Legionnaire from Shambler also on the way, but obviously the Scribe is here to help out with that, so Shambler has to tuck tail and run away. That actually could have been baited in a little bit more, but good reactions from Shambler to immediately pivot back. He's not going for the Hierophant, so the Legionnaires from Arbuz will have a little bit less efficacy than they normally do, but it looks like he's just going to 2-gate Nexus. Yeah, the 2-gate expand with the Legionnaires as the cheapest form of unit to have throughput on your gateways. Though I think they end up being a little bit more expensive than Zealots, just a little tiny bit, because they have such a low time cost comparatively. So their build time is so low that you can actually get more of them out, generally speaking. Shambler is going for his own expansion at around the same time, and he's going for Legionnaire Ecclesiast. It's not a composition we see too often. I guess it's just pure Ecclesiast right now with the one Legionnaire. Will it be enough to survive the 4 Legionnaires of Arbuz? I don't think so. Yeah, that guy's going down. So this could be a very quick game, actually, because the Ecclesiasts are not going to be up in number. At this point, I think Shambler needs to think about pulling away. He's also not targeting down the low HP one. That is a critical error as his third Ecclesiast goes down. That's a very cost-efficient trade for Arbuz. So it wasn't as quick as I had feared. The reinforcement Ecclesiasts came out in time. Third gate in response. What do we have on Arbuz's side? I feel like he's probably going to transition into a different bit of tech, as opposed to throwing down a third gateway. Economy a little bit favoring Arbuz, will do so as well by like 1 worker by the time that Nexus finishes up and starts working here for the natural. So we can go ahead and earmark these positions on the map here so that we can use our nifty little camera hotkeys to take a look at what's going on. A Warden, almost the same amount of money as a gateway. Definitely a rough situation there for Shambler, who has to consider his options defensively a little bit more so than his opponent, who got I don't think a full scout, but they saw enough here, I think, with that Legionnaire push. Although Arbuz didn't really get close enough. He definitely didn't see the third gate because that happened way later. But if he didn't get close enough to like the north of the Nexus, he doesn't actually know what Shambler is up to yet. And it is going to be a Stargate for ArbuzBudesh, going for that option here. This is a Ukraine versus USA matchup, if people care about the nationalities of our competitors. I find it interesting and fun trivia. Last Acropolis, we had a Venezuelan champion, AUD64, and before that, we had an Australian champion, Neblime. Maybe we're due for an American or a Canadian, like hit him up. Obviously, Ramen representing USA as well as Shambler. Hey, with Ramen getting over the line versus Dog, I mean, those were 2 USA players. So an American was guaranteed to be in. But Shambler could also represent the United States. He could represent his clan, United States Cosmonarchs, USCM, if he was so inclined and managed to get on through. The embassy on the front line is likely to be canceled here very early. Oh, he doesn't even cancel it. That's a bit of a whiff. Looks like he needs to get ready for the attack, and he's going to go ahead and put it down. I wonder if he's trying to bait forward, because, you know, the army here for Shambler is a little bit more mobile. The last of the Legionnaires is going to be dropped here as the Witness comes in for a scouting run. And Shambler has been playing the style where he does go a little bit more on the lines of the Witness-heavy style, right? He makes a lot of embassies. He gets a lot of Witnesses. Him expanding very fast is worth noting, right? It's something that I think maybe he learned from his games against Smarty, that those were not comfortable games, despite Shambler being, in theory, like the better player, the one who's certainly had posted better results than Smarty. Made it to Throne Room stage in the last Acropolis, and was able to finish 5th to 6th, whereas Smarty was stuffed at the final hurdle of qualification, so wasn't even able to make it to battlements. I think that will be different this time. I do think that will be different. But in that Protoss mirror where Smarty had, really taken the aggression to another level, it was eventually this Strider transition that he had done from his mass gateways, completely pivoting away from the Zealot, Ecclesiast ground game that we're used to. And so Shambler was pressured, and he did have to make a Nexus in that series, and I think maybe now he just recognizes maybe the first base needs to be a Nexus, and he can use his Artisan work to get a little bit of a different look later on. He's even going for a Witness, which historically, I mean, he has made them every now and then, but it's not normally something that I see him practicing with. So cool to see that. Second Stargate on the way. We have only one Gladius, a second one about to finish. So it hasn't been a production priority just yet for Arbuz. He's been favoring the Witness, favoring some of these static defense structures. He's adding 2 more Wardens as this attack comes in. And yes, Shambler does have Ascension, courtesy of his Hierophant, but the attack speed increase is not going to be enough to turn the tide here. Gladiuses in enough number can absolutely ream through Ecclesiast stacks because the damage just gets to a little bit too much, and the Ecclesiasts can really get full surface area on their passive to restore shields. By the way, Shambler was making a rogue gallery earlier. Unfortunately, he's going to lose 3 Ecclesiasts up there on a bad rally. A couple of his Zealots kind of lost in the middle of the map as the Artisans start to colonize the 6 o'clock. And some idle workers here at the Natural. Shambler definitely needing to get them on the field and figure out what he's going to make. It looks like it's going to be a Charlatan as he expands his build area in the main base. Has got lots of Striders on the way. It felt like if Arbuz had decided to saunter across the map, he really could have done some threatening. And Hierophants do allow you to catch units because of their on-hit slow, but Arbuz just wants to develop his tech a little bit more, right? Prostration stage on the way here for our Ukrainian player. He's going to be able to field Mind Tyrants, or obviously you think about the Pariah as a chief unit for that, and indeed Shambler is going to be doing that as well. So his is a little bit late, a little bit delayed. Economically speaking, he's not as well off as Arbuz, who has been harvesting Vespene for a little bit here at the 3rd base, thanks to his faster embassy. The Witness spots out the other Witness, but hey, Arbuz is actually going to be able to fly away into relative safety, although that Warden is going to be able to pick him off, and I don't think Arbuz had enough time to select the Prostration stage. It'll be a Pariah first for him, and he's just going to continue saturating his 3rd base, even a little bit preemptively. His army is further forward than maybe he would have been comfortable with, but the Gladiuses can start to stack up, although one of them gets picked courtesy of that Hierophant. I think at this point you need to cancel the attack and see what you can save from this army, but a fighting retreat is also good. You stack up those Gladius projectiles, he's still chasing him. That's some aura from Arbuz. He was absolutely not favored in that fight. But the Gladius projectiles eventually stack up so much that it becomes an overpowering tower of defense, basically, a tower of tower of DPS that just collapses upon you. Still, another Strider will be sacrificed to the Shambler gods, as we have another Witness here, just in case some cloaked shenanigans occur. But there's a Bulwark at the 3rd base as well. No cloaking in sight. I mean, the Rogue Gallery could make Kabbalists, so it's not like beyond the not outside the realm of possibility, we'll say. And he is actually making a Kabbalist now, so he wants to incorporate those into his mid-game, which I think makes a lot of sense, right? Our 3rd base is up and running here. We've got Pariahs sort of sauntering on about from both squads, both sides, as there is indeed that Pariah coming for the Prostration stage. Artisans are just sort of idling around here, but they are mostly targeting Vespene. So the mineral count is going to be far inferior here. Shambler not going to be able to scale up his army as much as Arbuz is because of that extra mineral income that Arbuz has. And the Artisans are, I mean, they're very slow going, right? He's only made the 1 embassy. So it feels like he's definitely not seizing the economic advantage here. He will clear some of the Scribes harvesting gas. The Gladius, one of them does end up falling. There's still 5 of them here. This does not look like a fight that Arbuz is likely to lose. Shambler is trying to push on in, but I don't know. At the very least, he does clear another 2 Scribes with that Zealot. Maybe a little bit more as Arbuz has let it slip the net, so to speak. But he's actually pursuing the ground army. Now it turns around on him. The Pariah can deal some splash damage. Looks like it's only good enough to clear the, 2 of the Gladiuses, but at that point the stack is so high. This Zealot has cleared so many scribes by itself. That's 5 dead scribes. And eventually, and it looks like one of the artisans also was kaput. We have 3 Gladiuses kind of idling above the 3rd. Arbuz not actually incorporating them into the fight. Might have cost him a little bit of efficiency that he otherwise would have had. Has a lot of money as well. Both of our players starting to float a little bit, but I'd say Arbuz with the mineral float is a little bit more egregious because he could be expanding, he could be adding more gateways or something like that. And he's now switching into exemplars, it looks like, which, they can assail the enemies from a farther distance. So it's not like it's a pointless addition. It's definitely something that you can have a lot of value in. Somehow those 2 Gladiuses don't provoke Shambler to jump on them. Might have been worried about a bait. His witness was never really dispatched to the other side, it looks like. He's got one off to this position over here, north of the 3rd that he's taking. Again, quite late. He's going to switch into Argosy here with that extra Vespine that he secured. And that's really what Shambler has to do. He has to find, mineral, lower, but, mineral budget cost units or tech paths, but gas-heavy ones, because he's got so many artisans harvesting directly from these geysers, and really doesn't have hardly any mineral income outside of his actual Nexus bases. This Kabbalist is going to slip the net, but remember there's bulwarks everywhere. I don't think he's going to get through the natural here. There's 3 wardens to pelt him down. Oh, look at that! Okay, never mind. The last shot there from the warden as he scoots up. If he had hugged this cliff, he might have been able to narrowly escape, but another thing you kind of can do if you're monitoring that is if you right-click the pylon and then move, it's actually going to cut some of the distance, so you'd probably dodge some of the projectiles, as Legionnaires do when they teleport. That's just a small little note. Might have been a 3,000 IQ move that Shambler could have done, but not going to happen here, as instead his frontline Striders are getting absolutely shellacked. This is one of the reasons why you want the Zealots at the front line instead. The Arbuz Pariah tearing things up, but that one, oh, look at that. Shambler just whittling down the shields of those Gladiuses. Not going to be capitalized upon, though. There's no follow-up Pariah. It was off to the side instead and just gets annihilated. It looks like the Warden and Exemplar, or the Gladius and Exemplar combo there was way too much for Shambler to deal with. And what's his tech transition out of this position? His Argosy is done, but it's not making anything. Instead, he's making a second prostration stage, feeling like he needs more Pariahs. And he's not wrong. That would have helped him, but way too late, it feels like. I don't think that he's going to have too much more value gained from this position, as a Hierophant, a stray Hierophant inside this ball, just added all of that attack speed to the Gladiuses, to the Exemplars, and to the Dracodons. Or maybe it was actually the Pariah there. I thought I heard the Hierophant talking, but instead I think it was the Pariah proccing it. And that, I think, will collapse Shambler's economy. Today ain't the day, boys, he says, and that's it. GG. I don't know why Shambler's so down on himself after only losing a single map. This is a best of 5 after all, but Arbuz will claim victory. And now we just wait for the admin to actually leave the game. There we go. Perfect. So yeah, interesting matchup. Interesting first map. We actually got some good macros, some nice little tech disparity. A lot of it does come down to, I think, that Witness not really being able to track positions and figure out where everything was. The Kabbalist was a cute idea that could have maybe gotten some good damage there. But if you're relying on the Kabbalist to get in versus a player who's been building bulwarks at every base, maybe there wasn't any detection in the main. I would wager a guess that that's the case. I don't think that that's a good thing to rely on because you might not be able to make it in there. Obviously, there was only the one embassy, so artisan count was very low. And then Shambler delayed his expansion because he thought he had, I've got artisans, I'm fine. Also had to spend money on those. So yeah, a lot of factors there, a confluence. But Arbuz takes the game. It's at least a competitive back and forth so far in game number 1. Fills me with hope for the series. Let's see if Shambler can fight back when we go to his map pick of Near Impact. And here we are on Near Impact. The Shambler fighting for a little bit of a run back here. Wants to bloody his opponent in the series. He is our black Protoss in the bottom right of Near Impact. And in the top left, we've got ArbuzBudesh. Delft Blue? Dark Sapphire Protoss. Man, I hope for Delft Blue every time I see this color, but it's never that. It's never that. So as I take my sponsored sip, I can remind you guys all about not just the fact that we have a coffee page for you to donate, but also that we have received some very nice donations on behalf of people who are enjoying the tournament and the casts. I do appreciate that. Actually, I want to shout out Jujic as well, who donated to me on behalf of organizing the tournament, which I very much appreciate. And it's definitely one of those things that when we're thinking about it, when we're considering, making these tournaments happen, running them, and getting everything in order for them. It's appreciated when people are enjoying them and giving comments and sharing the videos around and stuff, but it's also very much appreciated when people do have the spare cash to donate and choose to. I very much appreciate that. So thanks all for everybody who has provided some cash flow. And of course, thanks to Jujic for not just doing that, but also adminning. It's very much appreciated. Now, I'm going to take my sip and then talk about this interesting double lattice build from Arbuz. All right, so Shambler does scout this out relatively quickly. His scout was a little bit faster than Arbuz's, but he's already gotten for that second gate. And unless we see that second gate get canceled, this is definitely going to be a kind of build that I think Arbuz is just going to be able to comfortably expand behind. Now, that doesn't mean that Shambler has no recourse, has no recompense that he can do, but he is going to go for the third gate, and this does worry me. I know he's done this in a way that Arbuz doesn't actually know it's happening. The first combat unit is going to be the Legionnaire. Looks like the same game plan, but faster third gate here so far from Shambler. He wants to see if he can overwhelm the lattice build, but with Arbuz doubling down and doing a triple lattice, it feels so unlikely that you're going to get really anything done here with the Gateway Mass. Now, Arbuz is moving his scribe in a funny way back home. I don't know if that was deliberate or not, but it avoids the Legionnaire, so it feels like it's a nice little high IQ move there, you know, reading into the future. We do love to see that. The Legionnaire does not find the scribe, and so it will end up falling back, worried about a potential walk back or move back. You can see the Ecclesiast already waiting in case it's a vassal. And one vassal was made, but it's just going to be a delayed scout. Not going to be a heavy transition into that. It's going to be Idle Manifold. Idle Manifold breaks Zealots really well. It can do okay versus Dracodons in small numbers, and usually you've got bigger numbers of the Lattice units because they are cheaper and they take less time to build. Vassal might also be useful if it survives the run-by here to monitor those natural, Shambler magnets over here, these bases in the corners that could allow Shambler to use his artisan style even further. Although I think he would want to start with the gas harvesting, obviously. Now, the army is leaving the building. The Warden is already on the way, so this vassal really shouldn't result in much of anything as far as damage is concerned. He's just kind of scouting over and sees 3 gate. Now, does he still throw his Nexus down? He does. So he's laying down the gauntlet. He's saying, Shambler, if you want to fight me, you want to see if you can break me with what you've got. I've got so many manifolds that I'm going to ignore all armor. And you're going to have to get through this Nexus because you're not going to be able to get up my ramp. So let's see. It's not that many units here for Shambler. I don't think it's going to work out for him on this attack. But if he can get a little bit of value, if he can maybe pick some of these units, that can be a different story. I think the Ecclesiast heavy composition just isn't going to do it. The Matrix being put down here as well, in about 35 seconds, that is going to add insult to injury as far as actually trying to break through some of these positions. He is going to whittle down the shields mostly on the Nexus, but he has no front line, right? The Legionnaire is dead. It's not much of a front line anyway. It's not going to stay alive for very long. More idols are being made. More manifolds are queued up as well. And Shambler just wants to kind of keep the pressure on. And, to his credit, he is starting to mass up more units. The more Dracodons he ends up getting, the scarier this push actually looks for Arbuz. I think the answer, if you're going to go mass gate to this kind of style, is to go a lot of extra Dracodons. The Striders help out massively. He's going to go for the engagement, but the Matrix is done. I don't think this is going to be well advised. More idols probably need to be pivoted in here by Arbuz because he only has a couple. And again, the Striders will deal with them in even number. There's the Warden, double Warden actually, the one in the mineral line, going to finish up pretty soon. And the Striders are going to try to range down the Nexus. It's a very long timer, but it is a timer nonetheless. And, Shambler is not on the ball. He's going to end up losing at least one of those Dracodons. Yeah, that is critical. He might trade for a single Manifold. Well, he's going to trade for the Manifold and the Idol, but he's going to lose all of his Legionnaires. He's really diving forward trying to finish the job here, but it's not even close to being done. A lot of work left ahead of him, and 3 idols at a time now with Arbuz. He's actually floating some money because of the extra pressure, which is points in Shambler's favor. And the Vassal, it's not going to stop the Scribe from putting down the Nexus, but it's just going to scout out. And, oh yeah, you're expanding too? Okay, I see what's going on. Let's see if the Vassal is saved. It's not. That's when that second Dracodon joined the fight. It was fate sealed. Warden in the mineral line here for anti-drop, but Shambler is not going for that, although his embassy is going to finish soon, so it's still an opportunity, a possibility. I guess that might be the mind game here. Shambler picking this map, and you think, he's going to go embassy, he's going to go artisan for the corner bases. And maybe that can even still be what Shambler does, but right now, he's going for a more aggressive Strider-heavy composition, so he can just come in here and pick off individual targets. And it's a lot harder for Arbuz to find some value there. Now, the Vassal actually allows the army to engage, but I don't think you want to engage this as Arbuz. you do not want to be leaving all of the static defense that you put down here. There's a lot of money invested in the static defense that is simply not helping. So that was not a great fight from Arbuz, our lattice-focused Protoss here. Definitely, I think, on the struggle bus on that, as far as that is concerned. We got 3 golems coming, but he's not going to have that much DPS left for the muscle. He needs some more muscle. Oh, he's going to clear these Ecclesiasts, courtesy of the splash damage. The Striders alone are not going to be able to overwhelm these static defenses, so Shambler definitely needs to respect those. Arbuz has a lot of money in the tank, and he's going to go double Stargate, so I guess he probably wants to go straight to Exemplar at this point. Can he do that and survive the onslaught, so to speak? That's the question. He's going to go for Manifolds next. I think adding Manifolds, I'm starting to see why he's doing that. He doesn't necessarily have the resources to go for triple idle every time, and now he's going to queue them up, right? But he wants some units on the field just to hold Shambler at bay. He knows he's got economic tempo. He knows with his Sedent in the natural here, and presumably he's going to add it to the main at some point soon as well, that he can end up just using that to his advantage. Now we do have Artisans already harvesting the Vespene Geyser from the third base for Shambler, so the gas is not going to be, he's basically brought that back to even, right? The Vespene income is very good for Shambler. He's adding a Grand Library, probably going to be going for the Cantavis, if I had to speculate. And we've got double Stargates. Witness on the way here for Arbuz, so he's going to be apprised of his opponent's situation here. And, with a couple of vassals, I think maybe 3 vassals beats a single Artisan, fairly comfortably without losing a vassal. So, at that point, 3 to 5 vassals, that's going to save you the necessity to micro. Unfortunately, a golem is going to go down here courtesy of that Hierophant. Well, no, he trades 1 full HP golem for a no HP golem. So I guess technically it's the wrong one that goes down. Trying to focus down those Hierophants, it's not a bad idea, but he hasn't been able to do it just yet. Bulwark keeping him alive as the Exemplars are going to come out. So he'll at least have 2 Exemplars before this fight really, goes a different way. Witness spotting the army, just really seeing the complexion of it. The Grand Library and the Stargate are both at the natural, so, Shambler taking advantage of the fact that he has the offensive tempo here, the map control. He knows he's not going to get attacked by the ground, and probably not at all. If he does, it'll be a drop or something. So he's just going to leave the Grand Library and the Stargate here so that he doesn't have to build a pylon. He doesn't need to wait for that sort of thing to happen. Now, I generally think people should build pylons. They're cheap. And they save you from embarrassment should your tech get sniped at your natural. Neblime would love to see something like that. But, Prostration Stage on the way. He's made a pair of land effects after the Exemplars, and now he's going to do 1 of each, as more and more golems are being made. Artisans as well, going to come into fruition here. So, it looks like Arbuz has all the tools he needs to bring this back into his favor. The land effects are in the position to try to disable. He should split one of these out. I don't know why he didn't do that, but either way, it's drawing fire, allowing the lattice units to find a lot of value. One of the Exemplars is going to go down, though. The focus fire not quite there, and no more Manifolds means no more armor pen for the idols, so it's going to be a lot harder for them to do what they need to do. Still, these Striders are going to get impinged and pushed back. Not going to work out the way that Shambler wanted, and now that the contain has been broken, at the cost of an Exemplar, admittedly, and a lot of idols, we do need to see a little bit of a switch up here for Shambler. He's still, I think, in the lead. You look at the workers that he's got harvesting Vespene. He can absolutely still make this happen. He's making a couple of his own land effects for that. Adding more Stargates as well. Does he want to just mass Lanny? That would be an interesting tactic. Third base on location. Well, I was going to say there's no other way to do it for Protoss, but actually Shambler has proven that he can just make mass Artisan. Third base up here at 12 o'clock for Arbuz. I'm still in TVT land, right? That was the last cast that I did before this, so I'm thinking, oh, they're building the ministry right there. Okay, not lifting it off. No, the position here is definitely still, you look at the worker count, and you're like, oh, yeah, okay, well, Arbuz is still even on workers, but the gas income is so much higher for Shambler, courtesy of him mining from so many different positions. He's even got his Nexus at the 3rd already, which is something I hadn't even noticed yet, so he's going to have a lot of Cantavis, a lot of land effects, and a decent amount of Striders. Arbuz does need to come back into this as far as his economy is concerned. He's going to go ahead and put down some defensive structures here. Wow, look at that. Double Warden, double Matrix, and a Bulwark to block this path. Aquifer set up there at the 3rd base, so Arbuz taking advantage of the fact that that is now a geyser. The older versions of Near Impact didn't have that, but the redo. The update that also changed the complexion of these corner bases and added this little secondary path into the 3 and 9 o'clock positions. Does indeed sport a geyser there. So that's going to be some nice gas income for Arbuz. We're kind of just our players shaking hands to develop their army. Reminds me of Arbuz versus Kasuga on Mass Destruction, actually, where it was just, let's make our army in peace, and then whoever's got the better army is essentially going to win the game when the first army fight happens. So it looks like some Gladiuses are going to be made here for Shambler. He's going up to a 4th Stargate. His Crucible is going to empower a lot of them over there. Arbuz has a Witness there. I don't know how active he's been in watching that. He's going to go ahead and take his 4th base, which, with the double gas, it will actually help to equalize the Artisan count for Shambler. He's got one of his own Artisans moving down here to grab these ridges, which is pretty cute. He does walk straight past one of these, but I don't know if either player actually noticed the enemy dot on the minimap. Of course, our players can shift tab if it's like hard to spot the black color on the minimap, so I wouldn't be surprised if Arbuz already did that. He's got a Sycophant out, which is probably not long for this world, but it's a cute unit to see. The Pariah needs to get in there. In fact, most of the units need to get in there. The land effect stack is very high, but Idols can deal with that. They're all stacked up too. The Idols can absolutely deal with that, and now they go for the Disable. The Idols are going to be on top of that. The Storm clearing a lot of those ground units, but it's not focused on the Exemplars, and that feels like maybe the major source of power there for Arbuz are his Exemplars. Now, some of them did end up going down. I think maybe one went down already. His ground army is starting to hemorrhage. More Idols come up, more land effects come up as well for Shambler, and now Arbuz's own Lanny, not going to be enough to really do much here, and the Storms are just so good. The Exemplar is not able to focus down those Cantavis. When you put a Disruption Field on top of the Cantavis, yeah, GG, it doesn't cancel the Storm. And so I don't know if Arbuz thought that happened, but Shambler is able to make a good push happen. And I think a lot of that came down to his Vespene. So very solid stuff there from Shambler to punch back in that map. And now, you know, if this was a best of 3, okay, I'd say we're going to the 3rd map to decide things. This is a best of 5. Lads, we are going to be here for a little bit longer for Protoss Mirror. This is going quite nicely. We go to Serenity, ArbuzBudesh's map pick. He is here in the top right as our blood. Oh, no, it's maroon. Maroon Protoss. Shambler in the bottom left is the brown Protoss. So, we'll have to see. Because, in my opinion, that game played there was very interesting as a way to show how gateway openers can deal with the lattice firsts, right? The lattice builds. And so that's a neat little play, right? That's a neat little push. I don't know if Arbuz is going to go for lattice again. In fact, I could tell you he wasn't harvesting Vespene. Both players going to put their gateway down here. And that is more than enough. So it's just a neat little thing, because at the end of the day, we are talking about a position here for Shambler that he's able to now say, okay, if I scout that you're going lattice, I have a response. Do you have the adaptation? And right now, Arbuz is not going to posture for that. He's not going to threaten that. He's not even going to try to answer that question yet. He is just going to go for gateways. So I love the tip for tat. Obviously, Arbuz changing up his style, even though he won the game that they both had gone for gateway. So now he's going back to that, and I think that's pretty interesting. The chaos agent in me looked at the fact that this gateway was the position for the second one, and I thought to myself, wait a second, is Shambler building a gateway there? And then I thought, what if you could use enemy power fields the same way that Zerg can use enemy Kagra? Wouldn't that be very interesting for building? I mean, it would just be a compulsory Warden rush all the time, but, you know, I don't think it would actually change that much. It wouldn't be very good, but I like the idea. It's a funny idea. Although the Protoss structures take so long to warp in, I don't think it would matter. But, you know, it's the thought that counts. In fact, the only structure that's really cheap to warp in time-wise is the pylon, ironically. At which point do you really need it? All right, so we've got 3 gate here for Shambler, and he is harvesting a decent amount of Vespene to afford his Ecclesiasts. His Scribe returns home unassailed, and as does ArbuzBudesh's, who is he's actually able to make a Nexus as well. So there's going to be 2 gate expand versus 3 gate. Generally speaking, Defender's advantage is high enough here for in the Protoss Mirror. It didn't always used to be the case. For a while, it was Gateway Wars, but even more so than what we saw, for example, between Smarty and Kasuga in the Tribunal stage. So that's kind of an interesting push, right? Because it's like, oh, yeah, of course. We've got the the Nexuses, and, you know, like whoever makes their Nexus first is going to be the one who blinks in the Gateway Wars, and they're going to get smashed. But now we've got plenty of defenders' advantages and plenty of options for defense, right? And unless a player makes a mistake, it's really hard for them to downright lose the game because they expanded. So I think that works out. Some of it was discovered, some of it was balanced or added to the game, like the Bulwark, for example, as these Legionnaires are going to start to heckle each other. Looks like initially, obviously, it favored Arbuz, but now he does have to watch out. It looks like he is going to lose a single Legionnaire. Oh, no, I like that, actually. He moved away as like a bit, like, okay, well, in the same way that if you've got, like, Irradiate on Mutalisks in StarCraft 1, you know, ZBT, you're going to pull the Mutas away from the Irradiate field and, like, try to split them up. But, you know, it wasn't guaranteed to connect, and so that's pretty neat. Now, back at home, the Matrix has only now started, so, honestly, Shambler could, at the very least, force a cancel on that. We'll see if he wants to, because he's going to end up losing a lot of his Legionnaires for it. Yeah, he's going to dive onto it. And that's good. I mean, that's a lot of... oh, he doesn't even get the cancel. There's a lot of money wasted. He's going to put down another one behind it, but... You know, this doesn't have threat. You know, I wouldn't say this necessarily has kill threat, although he does have another Hierophant coming, but the Strider count should be enough to deal with this. Oh, man, hold on. I think maybe Arbuz let his foot off the gas there, not canceling. He's going to have to pull workers. Remember, he does have a worker advantage. The Nexus is only halfway complete here for Shambler, so even if Arbuz goes below Shambler's worker count, which it looks like it's basically guaranteed to, although the DPS spread is not great for Shambler here, it does feel like, you know, Arbuz can come back, although this is a lot of worker damage. This might be too much worker damage, actually. Where is Gateway's idle? What's going on here? Looks like he, no, he did queue them up, so it just ends up getting overwhelmed. That's the third gate diff right there, and now past the Matrix, what are you going to do? So I was just saying, if you make a mistake, you can still get owned, but these two players I wouldn't guess would make mistakes. Arbuz made the mistake here, man. Arbuz definitely made the mistake. He put his pylon down pretty late. He, you know, despite the fact that he was taking his expand. He didn't get the scout off to see the third gate, obviously, so you can't criticize him in that respect. But he thinks that Shambler might be more all-in than he really is. Shambler's up by 5 workers and has the same amount of worker production. So this is definitely a winning position for Shambler. But Arbuz not immediately out of the game just yet. And I would say there's a slim chance that Arbuz is able to just kind of macro out of this position. He has improved his macro, generally speaking. I know he was floating a lot of money in the game that he won. But generally speaking, he's improved his macro. And he puts the embassy down faster. That can lead to artisans, which could lead to an economic comeback. Obviously, it does mean that there's less military spending, and Shambler has more military production. So with his rogue gallery as the tier 2 sort of leapfrog, I expect he's going to go for a prostration stage pretty soon. But he's adding a 4th gate in the interim. And a Stargate. Okay, so that's going to be his other tier 2 structure. Those out of the loop. Protoss tiers work such that any tier 1 structure unlocks all of the tier 2. And that includes Rogue Gallery and Stargate, Grand Library, and Ardent Authority. Any one of those structures unlocks all of tier 3. So when I said that he was leapfrogging to tier 3, I thought, okay, he's going to put the Rogue Gallery down because it's pretty cheap. And then he can go, you know, Prostration Stage, which is a tier 3 structure. But it doesn't look like that's immediately what he wants to do because he wants the Stargate, presumably for like land effects or something. Capping the Sedent there. It's going to go ahead and finish up and give some more Vespene over. The Witness is on the way here for Arbuz. He's got pretty reasonable gas income, certainly more than his opponent, courtesy of the Sedent, but it's only marginally so. Shambler opting into a very heavy ground contingent. 6 Zealots, those are going to be hard to chew through. It's a pretty good wall over here, but worth pointing out that the Warden and Matrix are not going to pack too much of a punch, it feels like. And he's only got the Zealots and Dracodons. Obviously, Shambler can decide to... He's actually going to go after the embassy. I mean, it's a lot of opportunity here for Arbuz to potentially do some kind of counter damage, but he only kills a single Zealot for his troubles, obviously wounds some of them. Defensive Warden gets up. With no embassy, that's really hard for Arbuz to come back economically. He's down 8 workers, and he's going to have to spend even more money on defense. Shambler can just kind of expand here from this position. Another Sedent goes down. I said earlier that Arbuz had a superior gas income, but he actually wasn't harvesting from his geyser or his ridge at the time, so I was incorrect. Cancel comes out there on that Warden, and the gateway is very well placed. However, one of the Draconids is likely to go down here. Gotta watch out for that. The Bulwark is powering up a lot of the shields here. Every 2 seconds is another, 5 or 10 shields, I think it is. But the Zealots and the Legionnaires are on top of the Draconids, forcing them back. That allows the Vagrants and the Ecclesiasts to get closer to the defensive structures, and that Warden finishes only to die immediately. The land effect here to disable the Draconids, and the economy is going to get even more totaled than it already was as the last defensive structure goes down. Sure, the land effect was dealt with, but the ground army is still so strong. Arbuz stubbornly holding on as best he can, but he's down 15 plus workers, and now the charge comes in. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if Shambler just executes his own Ecclesiast to speed up his army. We saw that with Hapsea doing that versus Newt, Acropolis #1 playoffs, funnily enough, but that was with Vassals. GG. Arbuz is going to be eliminated. Oh no, not really, because it's not a best of 3. Shambler has some more work to be done. And so, with that being said, he wins on his opponent's map pick, and now he's got obviously 2 series points, 2 chances to qualify directly into the Battlement stage from Gauntlet Stage A. This is, by the way, Shambler's first time in a Gauntlet stage, this event. So it would be pretty cool to see him qualify. Certainly something that I think is long overdue, is him, proving himself, especially since he switched races from Terran, and showing that he's still got it, that he's got all this stuff. He can absolutely, hang with the best of us. But hey, enough talk. Let's get on to game number 4. Here we go. Game 4. Could be the final map here, as the Shambler has ended up rocketing us to Blackwater Bastion, his own map pick, with a score of 2-1 so far. First of 3 wins. It's a best of 5. Shambler is our red Protoss in the bottom right, and we have cross positions once again, just like all of the 2-spot maps, right? So far, so good, if that's what people were hoping for. ArbuzBudesh in the top left as the Coral Protoss. And he's harvesting Vespene, so I think he will be going for that vaunted Lattice opener. Indeed he is. It's pretty far from his ramp, so I wonder what he's planning with that. Gateway first for Shambler. And, he did play a very drawn-out game on this map against Smarty Cakes. They did have vertical spawns. He's going to scout top right first. Shambler was actually in the top right, and it was Smarty in the bottom right, if you guys remember that game. That was a pretty entertaining one. It was also a game where I was like, Smarty, why are you still in the game forever? We all remember that. There's a gateway. Number 2 for Shambler. Does Arbuz have an answer now? Remember, Near Impact went Shambler's way, in part because, it was 3 Lattice versus 3 Gate, but Arbuz was cowed inside his main base. And I think part of that was, ill-advised move-outs. He maybe didn't recognize how strong his position was if he just sat there economically and built up and teched up. Instead, he tried to fight around his choke point there, away from all the static defense that he invested in. And so Shambler was able to whittle his army down, and from there, I think it was just a slow bleed out. Also, I think versus Shambler's style in particular, it probably does pay to take your 3 Lattices that he had on Near Impact and just make 1 or 2 volleys of Vassals when you feel like you have the freedom to. Part of the reason why it's ill-advised to go for that, push out away from your static defense is because maybe you lose too many units and then you don't feel like you have the freedom to do that. So that's an interesting situation to be in. But I do think those Vassals could have helped scope out where the Artisans were, clean them out, shoo them away, that kind of stuff. Obviously, I say, 3 to 6 Vassals in that situation because that does feel like it's pretty good as a way to, blindly A-move a position. You don't have to micro it. You can let the Vassals do the handling for you. So, it will be a 3rd Lattice here for Arbuz, and a 3rd Gateway for Shambler. He scouts that it's, an idle, so he knows that there's going to be Lattice involved, and so he's going to go ahead and probably put down a Warden at some point in his mineral line, but the Vassals are on the way. There's actually a number of them. He's going straight into a lot of Vassals. That's an interesting adjustment. Remember, there's the Hierophant, and maybe there will be some Ecclesiasts later, but we actually do not currently have much anti-air. A 2nd Hierophant is going to be the other anti-air of choice. If the Vassals can also benefit from the Manifold Aura, they could actually do a lot of damage to, things like the Hierophant. They only need 1 Manifold to be enchanting them in order to get that extra bonus. Another thing you can do, of course, Rogue Gallery for the Barghest, everybody's favorite. So it will be 6 Vassals leaving the building. He did indeed go for 2 volleys, but much earlier than I thought, and way before an embassy is even in the picture here. The Warden is on the way. I think it'll be done by the time these Vassals reign over there. But Arbuz is moving over to his natural and will presumably take that expand. But his Vassals are going to come in and potentially scout no army here. Back at home, it feels like Arbuz will have a tough hold. But still a possibility. Remember, Legionnaires are not ideal versus idols. He's going to go ahead and put that Nexus down as soon as he hits the money count. Which I know, the longer it's up, the easier it is for the Legionnaires to get bullied into attacking it. Unfortunately, so 6 vassals might be enough to clear a warden, but there was an ecclesiast out, and that just restores the shields of the warden. So here we go. That's caused Shambler to pull the trigger, but he's going straight into the mouth of all of these idols, and he's losing so much value on his Legionnaires. That ecclesiast was not in the fight for the longest time. Some of those vassals are going to return home. This is still a better winning fight for Shambler, but we do have more idols on the way. Oh, they only now got ordered. But that Nexus is so tanky now, has had so much time to develop. It feels like absolutely Arbuz can fight over it. He's actually pulling the workers preemptively, so he can just kind of help fight, transfer them on, that sort of thing. There's no splash damage, obviously. Oh, I see. He's trying to maybe clothesline him, trap him in there, snare him. Instead, he's just going to pick a single ecclesiast. And the scribes can start to harvest very soon. They're going to kind of hang out. No, they're going to return home. Oh, I thought for sure he would just kind of keep them out here and continue to have them for pressure, and then immediately just start harvesting from the Nexus as it was about to finish. Would have been slightly cleaner. Shambler actually moving forward here. The pylon soaking up a surprising amount of damage. More pylons being dropped just as a wall. Units can still fit in between them, but obviously the attack move is going to favor Arbuz in that situation. You got to clear those pylons before you really get anywhere. No Nexus in sight for Shambler, who's sent in another Warden. Those vassals kind of paid for themselves because a lot of them are still alive. He lost 2 of them in the attack, and he lost 1 of them in the defense. That Matrix goes down with no cancel. That's unfortunate for Arbuz. But remember, he's got his Nexus. He can just sit here on the Nexus. He's fine. Another Matrix goes up. I wouldn't mind seeing a gateway here or something like that to even further make this position unassailable. But yeah, no expand from Shambler, and I think part of the reason might be that extra Warden. He's pivoting into Destriders now as well, which are more mineral intensive. Embassy on the way for Arbuz. America might have the upper hand, but Arbuz is not done yet. I think he's the sole representative of Ukraine at the top level now. We had iSarcasm back in the day, who also was hailing from that position, although I think he was living in Canada. No doxing, I swear. He said that in a public interview. But still, interesting situation to find yourself in. Is as the sole representative of your nation. Frankendow knows that. Ayud knows that. There's a couple of people who know that. I guess technically Neblime does now because Swarmlord has taken a hiatus. Hopefully he comes back soon. All right, so we've got this siege about to break through. He gets rid of the pylons. It doesn't seem like this is a situation where the Striders are going to be too effective at dealing with what Arbuz has. And as that Ardent Authority finishes up, you can see a Cantors. You might even see an Envoy for dropping. He picks off the Sim, which is fine. Those are tanky sumbitches. The one Vassal here, going to see that the Nexus is about to finish. Even heckle it to distract Shambler. The one time the Night Fox wishes he didn't get a notification for when he's under attack. I say that, but like maybe 10 minutes pass and then the Vassal kills the Nexus. Embassy on the way for Shambler as the Sedent is going to finish up here in the natural. He does not have it in the main base. It's just still 3 lattices and, of course, the 1 Warden there as well. Well placed, I must say. Shambler is not causing too much trouble, but I guess this mineral field is like less effective, less efficient than it could be. And a Stargate around the natural. But remember, we could definitely see a Witness pop through at some point. These Striders kind of blocking themselves. The idle count with the manifolds, this is really scary for Shambler, and I don't know if he knows it. But maybe he's just going to believe hard enough. Manifolds on both sides, enchanting the idols to completely bypass the armor of the Zealots, and the splash damage galore, helping to soften up a lot of those combat units. Hierophant is dead. We've got 2 more, 3 more here for Shambler. Is it going to be enough to really turn the tide? That Ascension proc, increasing the attack speed, really nice for Shambler's army. Sims splitting, causing a lot of unfortunate decollision. Scribes on the front line even. Might soak up a couple of attack moves there, and indeed they do. Bloodthirsty workers. Battle workers. Not quite able to get the kill. The vassal does it instead, which is kind of funnier, honestly. That was a, I think that was a manifold empowered vassal to kill the 3 HP Hierophant. We love that. Maybe not. But that's my headcanon. We got a second Stargate. The Witness is going to come on by and see that there's 2 Stargates in a Grand Library coming at the natural. Well, at some point, I would imagine it is. Third base on the way here for Arbuz, as he goes for a Crucible around another Ardent. He's just been making Servitors, which is a clever choice, because they are a reinforcement unit that you can make right now. If they die, they speed up your army like Vassals or like Ecclesiasts, but they're a mineral-only unit. And now in a Cantor, Foments. We do not have an Envoy yet. Instead, it's Mass Witness, which I don't hate. I would like him to scout the complexion of his opponent's base, though, so that Arbuz actually knows what's coming. But so far, so good. I thought these were production, but it's actually just Wardens. Arbuz will see that there's really no tech to be found here yet. Damn, a third Ardent. He's going macro Servitor, like Servitor en masse as like a core unit. Arbuz has talked about this. He's talked about how he enjoys going for this kind of strategy precisely because they provide him with a surprising amount of core DPS plus the Vengeance proc, right? So, you know, like people have said, the Ardent Authority itself is very expensive as a structure, but he's got these 2 Artisans harvesting gas in the top right natural. He's capped his natural ridge. Third Ardent Authority. He's just hardcore going to be going like a Cantor Positron, but heavy on the Servitors. Positrons will be great versus the land effect stack. And his ground army will be spread out enough that it's going to take a lot of APM for Shambler to be able to actually do something about that and properly cover them. There's a third Witness somewhere, I believe. I'm not quite sure where. I saw it get queued up anyway. I don't know if it's still in the picture. But these 2 are going to be watching for the third at some point. I think this one sees a little bit of the army moving out at the outskirts here. Oh, there it is. There's the third Witness. That could be like right here to watch the rally point, right? Or tag the army or something. No such detection for Shambler. No Clarion. Another option from the Ardent that we don't see too often anymore. Me saying that should probably terrify Terrans everywhere, right? Is Terrans versus Protoss, they're struggling. As usual, that just always happens. In every StarCraft, it feels like. Actually, I don't really know TVP in StarCraft 2, but every StarCraft that matters. Ooh! Got him. I do think that, you know, like the fact that Protoss might end up, you know, dropping some games against Terrans, right? And they're like, huh, well, there's like 5 other tools I haven't tried yet, so let me try those. It's just, something about that is very funny. I wonder if I found this Witness before Arbuz did. But he's busy doing a lot of other things. I'm just yapping. There is a Witness with Shambler's army, so he will clear this Witness from Arbuz, and that will reveal to him, signal to him, that the attack is on the way. We got that veteran, that combat veteran scribe with 1 HP. Is with the army for moral support. 4th base now. Damn. So definitely ahead of Shambler economically as far as tempo is concerned. Shambler scouts out 12 o'clock, sees nothing. And he's going to start to pivot back over. Witness with the army definitely makes it hard to use your own Witness to scout them. So it's good for Shambler to do that. He knows that Arbuz is quite likely to make such moves. Now, is he going to be checking 9 o'clock? That's what it feels like. And Arbuz's army feels like it's a lot more reactive than it is proactive. So this Nexus does need to probably be canceled. Oh, he's not going to get it in time. Well, that's unfortunate. Is he going to try to fight around this, or is he just going to use this as a stepping stone? Because 400 minerals at the end of the day, it's not terrible, but Shambler, timing really favored him there. That is the fate of all fools, to lose their Nexus, because it finished a little bit fast. Now, will Shambler get out from this position? Oh, Arbuz hesitates. Might have been an opportunity for him to commit there. But Shambler actually wants in. He wants to use his land effects to clear that vassal stack. Is he going to get baited in, though? Yeah, all of these units are stacked up. That was horrible from Shambler's land effect usage. They all go down before the real proper engagement even happens here. We do have Positrons. No, only one. Yeah, 2 Positrons still. They're going to help deal with the front line quite a bit. The Gladiuses are stacked up as well. Those get absolutely shellacked. Idle Positron combo with Manifolds to increase armor pen. Good luck, and see you later. It's just some Striders left over. That was a crushing defeat for Shambler's military. And remember, even though he stopped the 4th base, it's going to go right back up there. 12 o'clock being taken, 4th and 5th at the same time. And the 3rd base has been running this whole time, fully saturated. Shambler only now really doing that for the minerals in his 3rd. So he's really behind the 8 ball economically. He's got these artisans, only some of them working. And he's got some Cantavis as well from the Grand Library. His Storms were his ally on near impact. They shredded the Exemplars, the idols and such. He's going to come back over here and force another cancel on this 9 o'clock, I think. But Arbuz is fine with this. Remember, he's got another base coming at 12. You know? So he's okay. He definitely wants to cancel it so that he gets his money back. There it is. He's got time. Now, another thing worth pointing out, an Argosy was made and Pyrians are on the way. One of them's already out. So the defense is going to be fine. And I'm not so sure that you can say the same about Shambler. I think his 3rd base is going to get absolutely paved over here. He's got an army at the natural. That's the more vulnerable spot, it seems. But he had no advance warning that this attack was coming. The Positrons and Idols could go after the Scribes, and in fact they should. My god, all of them stacked up there. That's a moment where you want to hit the stop key on some of the ones in the back so that they spread. Planifex can disable. That actually was a little bit better than the first fight, but they still go down really quickly. And the Gladiuses are on top of the Striders. You can't be doing this with your air units, man. The Positrons and the Idols are going to eat your dinner, eat your lunch. And there's a Cantor off the opposite side. The money... Oh, the Plasma Shell just killed 2 Cantavis. A Cantor is reigning supreme again. The Servitor is just not going down without a fight. Some Gladius are still here. This is all the anti-air, so if the Cantors end up being the last alive, the Gladiuses can obviously deal with them. Arbuz's going to think about that potentiality and sort of stall himself out, but he's done what he needed to do. He's killed the 3rd base. Artisans abound. I guess that's probably enough for a base from Shambler. Or some, like, you know, maybe a 3/4 of a base. But remember, that still only puts him at generously a 3rd base situation, and Arbuz is on his 4th. So, money-wise, tech-wise, he's definitely winning the day. Idol going to help clear out those artisans. If only he knew that there was some up there at the 3 o'clock position, he could clear those. One thing that we're still seeing Shambler has up his sleeve is being able to use the artisans and people not really scouting for them. But does Arbuz need to do that? He's got a grand library, or rather an ancestral archives coming, with a crucible to empower it. His Argosy's making Solarians. The one idol has found the artisan fleet here. You could have killed that idol with all these artisans. Shambler maybe being a bit timid. But he knows that, you know, the position is found, so he kills that idol. With what else is going to happen? Wants to just evacuate as many as he can. Now trying to get out of dodge, but dodge is an apt word for this situation. The Cantavis has not cast Storm yet. The Cantavis still has not cast Storm. It's practically frontlining, and it immediately evaporates. Still, the Gladius count is well equipped. 8 Gladiuses, and no opportunity to really do much of anything for Arbuz's forward strike force, but he's got Empyreans and Solarians and, you know, a Positron, a token Positron in the army just for laughs. He's actually got 2. 3 Positrons. That's 3, you guys. It's hard to imagine a path to victory here for the Shambler, but I think if he wants to close it here, he can once again try to deny this 3 o'clock position so that Arbuz remains on 4 base. And he can just kind of try to abuse the fact that Arbuz's army is a slow death ball, essentially. But if this was an even economy situation, I would say Shambler, of course, has a chance. The weakness of this army is it can't be everywhere at once. But this is not an even economy situation, and as he kills this, you know, 5th base now, the 9 o'clock position has been slaughtered for a 3rd time. The Cantavis is going to go down really quickly. The Gladiuses are stacked up, and there's still Idols and still Positrons here, plus the Empyreans for splash damage. Those Gladiuses need to be so careful, but the Striders will only hold up for so long versus all those Cantors, and the Servitors doing consistent damage as well. The Gladiuses are getting caught up trying to kill those Stewards, and that's a full army wipe with so much left. Shambler, GG's. We're going to Game 5 for the first time in a best of 5 in the Gauntlet stage, so that's very nice. It only took us 2 to get here. No stomps allowed. Let's see what happens when we go to Radium for our decider. I'm sure Biddy be eaten well. The fact that he's been able to see his map as the decider here. Very cool. Very cool. Join us for that. It is time for the final match between the Shambler and ArbuzBudesh. Arbuz was the higher seed, so he was able to pick the final map, and it's Radium. We got here in a roundabout way with it going, the first map to Arbuz, then 2 in a row for Shambler, and now Arbuz has stopped the streak Will we stop the count, though? I don't know about that one. We've got Arbuz in the top right. He is our Periwinkle Protoss. And in the bottom left, we've got Shambler. Once again, the brown Protoss. And it's going to be Lattice for Shambler, whilst the Gateway opener for Arbuz. I mean, if the nameplates were reversed, I would say, okay, this makes sense. It still kind of does make sense, but we'll see if Shambler can play the same style. Exactly how does he use the Lattice compared to Arbuz? I hope you guys have been enjoying this series. I know we're going on an hour. We'll almost assuredly cross the hour mark here, unless our decider is a bit of a... I was going to say a dud, but actually a turbo rush to finish us off would actually be pretty cool. We're probably going to cross the hour mark here, so thank you very much for joining us. If you made it all the way to the end, leave a comment or something, right? Tell us what your favorite match was of this set, because we had some back and forth. I really liked, I think from a strategic standpoint, Game 2, where near impact, obviously, we had the Gateway versus Lattice, and so far that's been the domain of Lattice. And, you know, partially through some misplay from Arbuz in terms of walking out, and partially because Shambler just kept doing the pressure, kept adding the pressure up in the ante. Yeah, it was interesting to see that, because normally Lattice just beats Gateway every time, right? But Shambler found a way to make it an advantageous position for him, and I thought that was really neat. I liked Blackwater Bastion. I thought it was pretty cool as well, that last game we just played, in terms of Arbuz's victories. I guess our opener was also pretty hype. I don't know. I think all the games had interesting back and forth. The third one on Serenity was maybe a little bit of a dud because of how one-sided it felt. But generally speaking, I think this has been an excellent series. So very cool to see. And if you guys feel the same, if you have different observations than I do about your favorite one, of course, keep this one in mind. We could very well see some exciting stuff here. It is going to be a, vassal-favored opener here. And we do have the third gate coming for Arbuz. That's really funny that they've both decided the counter to Lattice is to at least go 3 gate. If you've already gone gate, you don't go 2 gate Lattice, you go 3 gate. That Legionnaire had to work very hard to kill that Scribe. Stutter stepping could have been better there for Arbuz, or maybe he just wasn't paying too much attention. I love that he goes for the Warden very quickly. This is before the vassals even leave the building, so they are going to do so now, but it does take them pretty long to get across the map. It's about 35-second build time for the Warden, so he'll be just fine. Maybe he'll end up losing a worker or 2. I believe Arbuz went out with 6 workers, or 6 vassals, and killed 2 workers that were harvesting Vespene for Shambler. I don't know to what extent that was an impact. It didn't feel like it was humongous. Now we've got Shambler going for 4 and then 2, and I think if this stagger comes in, it's actually going to be a little bit worse for Shambler, because he's only really going to have 4, and then he's going to have 3, and then 2 arrive, and it's 5. And how recklessly is he going to attack with these vassals? The Warden does indeed finish. Goes immediately after the Ridge Harvesters, so that's something. Yeah, all right. He killed 3 scribes, and he ended up running away with 4 vassals. More vassals actually leaving, so it looks like Shambler wants to kind of keep this going. Wow, the Legionnaire stack could just end the game. Is he going to be able to react in time? He has not blinked whatsoever. What does he have back here? Just more vassals. Sure, I mean, the Legionnaires can't attack up, but they can absolutely attack the workers. Shambler in real squeaky bum time now. His vassals are on the other side heckling that Nexus that's under construction. I don't think it's anywhere near the danger zone. And the Scribes have drilled very, very nicely here. This could have been a lot better for Arbuz's, count here. But wow, still, going up 7 workers at this point is humongous. And this Nexus is not long for, it's not going to be destroyed, right? It's not long for completion. The vassals are going to have to get the hell out of Dodge here. One of them already going down. That's going to inspire the rest of them to get the heck out. They're going after the Ecclesiast. I really don't agree with this. You have to be in range of the Ecclesiast passive in order to attack the Ecclesiast as a vassal because of your short range. So great micro from Arbuz nonetheless. But yeah, it's just a little bit too much. Now we do have 6 more vassals joining. So instead, 10 vassals is still a decent amount, but he's already switching into more Draken heavy styles. He's got a second Drac ready. Once you get like 3 Dracs, I mean, there's really no amount of vassals that can clear that. I know that's probably a challenge to somebody like 3 Crow, but I promise. Now, the Ecclesiast will not get away from this many vassals, but well, he's even able to kill the Warden or whatever that was warping in. So cost efficiency, sure, but economy is so far in Arbuz's favor. He's got his second Nexus. He's got almost a 10 worker advantage and will have that if he continues steady production in about 2 workers time. He will absolutely have that. Hierophant on the way. I mean, I guess his second Nexus is idle right now, so he's not as far ahead as he could be, and you don't want to give any opportunity for a comeback, but the second Warden in the main is just going to stop these vassals from being able to do much of anything. They will suicide to get worker kills because Shambler needs to be ahead by any means necessary, or at least like not as behind, but he's got no defense. If these Drakenons walk across the map, he's Shambler is dead, man. Shambler is in such big problems right now, such humongous trouble. The vassal count is too low to deal with, 5 Drax or 4 Drax and a Hierophant. So, yeah, realistically speaking, Arbuz should probably walk across the map. It's still fine for him to just sit here and be defensive and, deal with the vassal cloud, but there's only now are some ground units finishing up, and it's not nearly enough to really do anything. Like, this is just a kind of a losing proposition for Shambler, right? Like, he's lost most of the vassals now, and that will mean that he's got no standing army. If the Dragonins move across the map, the workers are still in favor of Arbuz, and he still has that second base. So, I mean, I'm not going to criticize Shambler for doing that necessarily, because what's he going to do with the vassals, right? Like, he needs to do something. But I'm just saying, even the best choice that he had there was still bad, because now Arbuz can move across the map and pressure. And, at this point, maybe you kind of give Shambler the option. Maybe you say, okay, it's 6 Drax and a Hierophant. You might be able to use cliff advantage to stay alive here. But it doesn't look good. And now that he's down on the low ground, it really doesn't look good. He's going to move to this cliff over here, which is going to give him a little bit of a look-see. And it is a single file line for the Draconin, so they are just going to kind of fall back and clear the last of the vassals, except for one. That Sim is dead. Now they're going to scoot around over here. Radium is a kind of a revamp, a refresh of Axiom. And this kind of area is very commonly fought over in both versions of the map. That's kind of neat. I still remember Maxium as well, the 4-spawn version. Not able to face check that very easily, so he is going to lose some shields, but no casualties on the other side. The 4th lattice is up. Yeah, I guess Shambler has fought himself back into the game, but again, look, Arbuz has 10 workers up. It's like that worker harassment earlier didn't do anything. Obviously, it did do stuff. It bought some time, bought some tempo, stopped the attack from moving across, even though Arbuz could have done that, and just relied on reinforcements plus a static defense to clear the air. He's going to go for a single land effect, which is just kind of insurance against a vassal cloud, I think. But the Nexus is now on the way here. And Shambler is going to have to come back somehow. This kind of feels like Game 3 did, right? Where one player gets a massive advantage economically on the start, mostly through killing a lot of workers. Well, that's exactly what happened here, on map 5. Arbuz definitely looking like he's about ready to move on. But, Shambler is going to hold on for now. We'll see if something miraculous can occur. He is going to hemorrhage some of these units. Some manifolds only kind of being added in later. But he still has 3 of them, so that's still enough to ignore the all of the armor of the Draconin. More than enough, actually. I think, honestly, the Strider-focused army comp is really good for, going up against these lattice units. They deal with golems. The Hierophant obviously tags individual units. They deal with the idols by outranging them. Land effect is going to get shellacked immediately. Now, this I don't necessarily like, obviously. Some random rally units kind of causing some confusion there. Probably from both players, to be honest. Yeah, the idols definitely punch back a lot more when the manifolds are out, right? And Arbuz definitely knows that. The reason why you want to go Striders in this situation is so you can take these slight fights. You can kind of take some shots and fall back, but it doesn't end up benefiting him to go for a very heavy committal. And now he's got Exemplars out. But again, up by 12 workers, he can go for a 3rd base much faster. His Witness is moving across the map. No saturation yet, even at the natural. And look, some of his mineral fields are about to deplete. Like, that's how long he's been locked in on one base. So, very quick there. The hammer is going to fall relatively quickly, I think. A rare pylon. Do we have a pylon on the other side? We do not yet. Well, Arbuz made a pylon, so he's my homie. I'm going to vote for him. There's the 3rd base, as I mentioned. And so Arbuz has elected to give us a bit more of a show, a bit of a longer go, as opposed to just moving across the map when the vassals were in his base and killing Shambler for his insolence. But it's given Shambler an opportunity. Technically, he does have a look in. I guess he can go for Grand Libraries, Cantava style, and just see what he can do for surviving. He's got a reasonable military count, but Arbuz definitely looking stronger if he can slow him down. And as Exemplars come out, it's going to be a lot harder to fight the Exemplars, as long as they're positioned properly, like over this or, in some of this negative space where, the ground army is up here on the medium ground and the low ground is where the Exemplars are. They can really benefit from their increased range and the fact that they are a flying unit. Now, Arbuz needs to react pretty quickly here. He's already cleared some of the idols. Those Exemplars need to cycle back. He cannot afford to be frontlining with them. I can't believe that he just committed them even further forward. That is a humongous mistake, it feels like. Still, with Zealots coming down, this Dracodon count should be more than enough. He is focusing down the idols now, which is good. Yeah, without that, the manifolds rather, without that, the idols are not going to be able to do much of anything. He lost the exemplars in a needless fashion, but he's still able to clear the army. And now what do you have on Shambler's side? He's got some Cantavas coming. I suppose they will finish in time. Shambler, back to typing. Shambler knows he's defeated. That's why he types when he's defeated. Or, well, I guess you could say more generically, he types when the game is over. Generally speaking. You know, that includes when he's typing Canada to Smarty. I can't believe he said that. That's so rude. A lot of static defense warping in, but I don't think they'll be quite in time. You know, these Cantavas could be jumped upon by those Striders. Bit of a missed opportunity for Arbuz. You know, you can click the structure that's working to see when you have detection. You can see the production tab. So you actually see what it's making, right? You see the progress, all that stuff. Everything that we can see as witnesses. So he's going Solarian. That's his move. Third base is starting to get up and running here for Arbuz. Still up in workers by a fair amount, right? Up by 12. So he's maintained that advantage so far. He's even got some artisans out here harvesting a little bit of extra cheeky Vespine as he caps the ridge in his third base. He's already got it in the main and nat. Yeah, well drilled here for Arbuz. His witness is going to continue peeping, seeing a lot of Cantavas, seeing some Amaranths as well. Could peek into the main just to see what's going on there, but there's nothing really to report as the third base is now going to start to foment, it looks like, for Shambler. He's got a scribe positioned for that. Arbuz doesn't necessarily need to expand ahead of his opponent every time, but it would definitely help him out a little bit here. He is going for the tier 3 tech, though. This is kind of the knockout punch. He can even add another Argosy, rather, after that Solarian gets added. He's almost got enough money for it. So if he wants to go for a double Argosy, well, it looks like he did want to expand towards that fourth base at the 3 o'clock, so that's not bad if he wants to do that as well. But this made me think he's going to go for another Argosy, right? Instead, adding more static defense. Just remaining safe. There's the Nexus at 3. He is all good there. Starting to deplete in the main base. Could definitely cycle out some of those workers. A little bit more efficiency at the same worker count. Up by 20 workers right now. In theory, that will start to dwindle as the third Nexus finishes up here for Shambler before Arbuz's fourth Nexus. But still, he's also been making artisans occasionally, right? So definitely helping him out. Although he still hasn't tasked this guy at 12 o'clock. Another witness leaving the building. This one will spot the third base warping in. There you go. He's realized, hey, get to work. I love that Arbuz makes so many witnesses, honestly. I know that that's one of the reasons why he goes for those artisans harvesting the gas. They effectively pay for the witnesses, but very good. Now, there's a lot of storms. There are a lot of storms available here. We got 6 Cantavas. Couple of these vassals really unlikely to do much, but they see the fourth base. It does feel like it puts a bit of a timer on what Shambler can do, and like a timer that he's aware of. But still, he's playing reactively. We've got an Ancestral Archives on the way next to the Argosy, so that's going to be the tier 4 tech. I wouldn't be surprised to see Optectons come out. Optectons do basically neutralize the Cantavas, right? Like there's, I guess they have to carve through everything else in the process, but if they, like, you can't storm the Optecton with the Cantavas unless you have a front line to absorb all the projectiles. And there's a lot more to deal with than just the Optectons. So, let's see. Second Solarian nearly complete. No, actually, sorry, fourth Solarian nearly complete. And Synthetic Cyanide out as well. Is that a Demiurge? And I have a Warden set up at the 5th base here at 12 o'clock. This is going to be Shambler's target, judging by his military movement. But this 4th base is nearly saturated, or at least baseline. Some units already ready to deal with that one vassal. No scouting available here as... Wow. Oh, he's going for a fake mass drop. The Solarians are going to absorb this. There's only one Cantavas in the pile. So, I guess he's going to be waypointing that towards the mineral line. But he's actually kind of lost track of it. So he's unloaded it just to show his hand. And he's going to kill this Nexus, but now he's going to see the Solarian count, right? He's not going to GG, because that's not in Shambler's spirit. He probably won't GG even when he's defeated here. But it still does not look too good for him. His military count is obviously higher than Arbuz's, but Arbuz's quality is way better. And the worker count at this point is stretched massively ahead. 30 workers to the better. Arbuz cruising towards qualification. Shambler would really have to change the narrative somehow. And to his credit, he has stopped the 5th base. But this really reminds me of Blackwater Bastion, where he was just always one base too far behind, taking his 4th at 6 o'clock, but it's spotted by Arbuz, and by this point, he's got so many Solarians, he can move out. He's even got an Uptecton coming on down. Gateway's continuing to make Zealot Dracodon, right? Almost said Zealot Dragoon. Almost said it. Then did say it. Now, the Storms can catch the army on the approach, but it does feel like this is a little bit too much. Cantavis storming quite a bit. Oh, boy, that's a lot of Storms for sure. But I think the Steward count is still high enough. And look at that. Yeah, there's this one that hasn't cast anything. There's a couple of them that have a lot of energy here. They has actually dealt with the ground army. That's pretty good. But the air army is still very much intact. Now waiting for that energy recharge. So the Storms did impress, right? And that does kind of show us the way that this army is gonna this battle is going to go. But with the Uptectons reinforcing the next push, and we still have Zealot Dracodon as like a nice little meaty group. Yet another base coming on down, yeah, of course. Monument of Sin. Oh, Arbuz. It's a little far from the Crucible, but I still love it. Looks like the 4th base is going to be pressured next, even though the 5th is just now finished, with lots of workers immediately garrisoning it. Very clever. The army can cycle through. I don't know if the Nexus can be broken down in time. Storms on the workers, not a bad shout. Of course, he's still down by 20, so 25 actually. So this is a good way to catch back up a little bit, economically speaking. Workers just get out of the way, which is good. Straight back into harvesting. The Solarians getting stormed. They do need to split up. Good moves so far from Arbuz to try to dodge those. The Cantavis kind of flying into their own storm, which is not ideal. Yeah. Evaporated. Yeah, Shambler really does love to just A-move with everything. He should definitely have his Cantavis on a separate control group. Maybe he already does. But I feel like they shouldn't be a part of the other control group, if you know what I'm saying. Got to cycle through. Apparently, Shambler, a fan of one control group army movement, just like all other Protosses. He's a true Protoss, guys. Solarians are going to have a field day with this position. There's not really anything to deal with the Stewards, besides the Storms. And we have the one Demiurge slowly taking command of all of the Hierophants. Now, will it be brought down? I think the answer is yes. Those Storms blanketing the position. That is brilliant. Shambler finally finding the right APM split here, but I think all of his Cantavises are going to slowly start to melt. Nothing there to absorb the Uptecton shots any further. He does clear this base, and now he's back even in terms of economy. He clears this base of workers, but there's still this one mining, and money is not really much of an object. The tech is about to finish up here with the Monument of Sin cleaning house. My God, man. Well, there's more Wardens coming up there to prevent any run-bys from finding as much success. But you can still beat that with a couple of Amaranths, to be fair. Couple Grand Libraries just to block local production for Cantavis, I suppose. The one Demiurge providing some more value as well. The Storms cleared out everything that started to worship him. The Empress will fall after, or the Empress takes command of the Amaranth just temporarily there. Let's see, here come the big Storms, humongous Storms on all that stack there, but the Uptectons are still finding value. Oh man, is it gonna be enough? I don't know if the Cantavis can get close enough to clear the Uptectons. They are slowly gunning through all the front line. The Golem's doing so much value, but look at the Storms! The Storms are on his own Cantavis. He's struggling to get it off. There we go. Oh, man. I don't know that it would have changed the fate if it was a little bit sooner. They still have a lot of HP on them. But that is a wrap on the 6 o'clock position. Uptectons will definitely clear it over. The Empress temporarily zombifying those structures before they get turned over. Star Sovereigns have arrived. Enter guy. Oh yeah, I think I heard somebody reporting something about this where if you have a group cast of Storm, of any ability, sometimes they don't all cast. That sounds like a niche, or like not a niche thing, an inconsistent issue. But definitely something that's going to tax your APM in the middle of a fight. Let's see if I can reproduce that and fix that between stages. But as of right now, Arbuz definitely well ahead yet again, up by 15 workers. At this stage, that amount is potentially a bit more diminished, but we are talking about 3 base and a couple of artisans here up in the top left. 6th base for Arbuz being set up. Doesn't have so many workers at the 5th, but his army is so much more strong. At this point, I think he's just kind of... He's extending it out so that we can see the glassing occur, right? That's what he's doing. I do wish sometimes I could make a thumbnail out of Game 5, but if I tell you guys, oh yeah, Radium is our 5th map, and then you see a screenshot of the thumbnail from the game on Radium, then, you know, that's... At that point, it's kind of sad, right? I love that the artisans are going to be... Of all the things to try to clear this, the artisans are the thing. No, he's going for the main. Oh, this is brutal. I think the lattices were here for more golem production, but they're just going to get glassed. There's no hope. You cannot stop that, and Shambler seems to know it. Oh, he's trying to get the workers out. No, not happening. He nuked them, boys! That is brutal. That is brutality. That is fatality. He's pulling all the boys, pulling all the workers. I mean, with how powerful the storms have been, this fight could actually be somewhat consequential, but there's another Star Sovereign somewhere, right? Yeah, this feels like there's no hope for Shambler to actually make it across the map and do anything. The glassing will continue until the series improves. And the Demiurge is out to help deal with all those golems as well, making it even harder for any of these units to do their work. All the storms on one spot, and it's not touching a single unit. Not exactly a blaze of glory, but I think that's a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. ArbuzBudesh will make it in to the Battleman stage. He will do so after a 5-game brawl against the Shambler for qualification. And that means that Shambler will drop down to the lower bracket and await whoever ends up moving up to face him. I don't even know who that could be right now. But maybe it'll be another PvP. That would be pretty funny. I'm glad... You missed a worker? I win. Okay, well, he did type GG. To Shambler's credit, he did type GG. I was wrong, guys. I was incorrect. So that is it. That is a wrap. ArbuzBudesh moves on, as mentioned. 3-2. Very hotly contested set. And I know since then Arbuz has been practicing some of the other matchups. He's been playing against Hamster and Krankendow for PvZ. I don't know if he's had much PvT, maybe versus Dog or somebody. But with all that said, I'm very much looking forward to how this kind of this particular rivalry between these two players, if you will, this head-to-head, evolves. It should be a fun one. Join us for the lower qualification series later on. When I have time to do so, I will be casting those and putting them up on the channel. Thanks, everybody who's been helping us out. And again, tell me if you made it all the way to the end, if you had a favorite game. I don't think it was that last one, but let me know which one you liked most. You know, maybe some people just like explosions. They see the Star Sovereign, they like the video, and they subscribe to the channel. Maybe that's enough. GG.